Namaskar, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, the most honorable President Prime Minister Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, all my dear friends, I heartily cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section that we are admiring our holy cultural identities in the form of unity in diversity. Let us go through changes. What changes we see around the world, in our surroundings, socially, politically, economically, educationally, scientifically, personally, professionally, emotionally, intellectually and spiritually even. India EU to shield trade deal by year end. Trump keeps markets yielding carnage in markets, indices dive 1.9%, investors lose 9 lakh crore rupees. Right time for India partnership, EU flags global headwinds. Jews from New Delhi at a time when both India and the European Union brace to face reciprocal tariffs from the US, and the transatlantic relationship is strained like never before. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, tasked their negotiators to conclude the India-EU free trade agreement by end of 2025. After the bilateral meeting in Hyderabad House, Prime Minister Modi said, "We have directed our teams to conclude a mutually beneficial bilateral free trade agreement by the end of this year." Earlier in the day, von der Leyen flagged what was at stake, saying the world is fraught with danger. She said that the modern version of great power competition is an opportunity for Europe and India to reimagine their partnership. Opportunity in sell-off makes staggered investments in large caps, say experts from Mumbai, as the benchmark Sensex at BSE fell 1.9% to a near 8-month low. Let us go through news from the world. The agreement would open up Ukraine's mineral wealth to US. Trump Zelensky to clinch minerals deal during meeting at White House. From Washington, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is set to meet President Donald Trump and seal a deal for US participation in Ukraine's mineral industry on Friday as Kyiv works to regain US support to fight Russia's invasion while Trump opens talks with Moscow. Zelensky, who gained billions of dollars worth of US military and moral support from the Biden administration, is facing a sharply different attitude from Trump, who says he wants to quickly wind down the 3-year war, improve ties with Russia, and recoup billions spent to support Ukraine. Trump has adopted a much less committed stance towards European security, a change in tone that had sent shockwaves across Europe and stoked fears in Kyiv and among its allies that it could be forced into a peace deal that favors Russia. The agreement negotiated in recent days would open up Ukraine's vast minerals wealth to the United States, but does not include explicit American security guarantees for Ukraine, a disappointment for Kyiv. Trump says the presence of Americans in the business would serve as a form of guarantee. How much the deal would be worth to the United States is not spelled out. Trump has said he expects to gain hundreds of billions of dollars. Zelensky had said he would not sign an agreement that would put his country in debt for generations. Ukraine would contribute 50% of all revenues earned from the future monetization of all relevant Ukrainian government owns natural resources asserts to a reconstruction fund jointly owned and managed by the United States and Ukraine. The agreement does not specify how the funds would be spent or identify specific assets it covers, though it says they would include deposits of minerals, oil, and natural gas, as well as infrastructure such as gas terminals and ports. The Washington talks are a diplomatic boost for Zelensky, who has repeatedly spoken of the importance of meeting Trump in person before the US President holds talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainians have been quite savvy at turning it around and using this, the minerals deal, as an opening to engage the US, said a senior Kyiv-based European diplomat who requested anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. Kyiv hopes the agreement will spur Trump to back Ukraine's war efforts and potentially even win support from Republicans in Congress for a new round of aid. Ukraine has rapidly expanded its defense industry production but remains heavily reliant on foreign military assistance while also struggling to replenish manpower as it battles a much large foe. While Ukrainians repelled Russia's invasion from the outskirts of Kiev and recaptured swathes of territory in 2022, Russia still controls around a fifth of Ukraine and has been slowly taking ground since a failed Ukrainian counteroffensive in 2023. Kiev's troops hold a chunk of India. Kiev's troops hold a chunk of land in Russia's western Kursk region after a 2024 incursion. Trump has engaged in a long-distance feud with Zelensky in recent weeks, criticizing his handling of the war, calling him a dictator, and organizing him to agree to the Minsk deal. Israel Hamas begin talks on next phase of ceasefire, Egypt says. From Associated Process, Associated Press, negotiation between Israel and Hamas on the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire began Thursday, Egypt said, averting a collapse ahead of Saturday's expiration of the agreement first phase. Israeli army admits to failures on October 7. UK Development Minister resigns after aid cut. London, the British Cabinet Minister responsible for international development quit Friday in the wake of PM Keir Starmer's decision earlier this week to ramp up defense spending by slashing the foreign aid budget. Annalise Dodds resigned as International Development Minister and Minister for Women, saying there were no easy paths to increasing defense spending, but that she disagreed with the decision to cut overseas aid. On Tuesday, Starmer said the government would raise UK defense spending on spending 2.5% of the GDP by 2020. Others killed in suicide bomb attack in Pakistan. China to send Pakistan astronaut as first foreign guest to its Tiangong space station. In French child rape trial, one victim draws inspiration from Giselle Pellicot. YTN Center are clashing over NEPC language formula. From New Delhi, the center has withheld funds for the Samagra Shiksha scheme in Tamil Nadu due to the state's refusal to implement the new education policy of 2020. In strongly worded letter to the Prime Minister, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin last week sought the the release of rupees 2,152 crore funding for the centrally sponsored scheme meant to support the provisions of the RTE Act. At the heart of the clash between the BJP-led center and DMK-ruled Tamil Nadu is the so-called C-language formula that is a part of the NEP. While the center maintains that this policy is meant to ensure that youths get employment across region, Tamil Nadu has imposed Hindi on the state. Tamil Nadu has an almost century-old history of anti-Hindi agitations, unlike most other states, including southern states such as a two-language formula in which students are language debate in education. The debate over language policy in education has existed independent since independence. The University Education Commission of 1948 to 49, chaired by Dr. Sirsaland, who sent on to become the second President of India, examined this topic in detail. This was political hot potato even then. The Commission's report notably stated no other problem has caused greater controversy among education from our witnesses. Besides, the question is so wrapped up in sentiment that it is difficult to consider it in a calm and detached manner. The Radhakrishnan Commission favored Hindi means Hindustani as India's federal language to be used for all federal activities, administrative, educational and cultural, while regional languages would serve the provinces. At the same time, the Commission recognized that immediately abandoning English would be impractical. It stated that English would have to continue as the medium for federal business till such time that all provinces are ready for the change. Having spread the federal language adequately, three language formula. It was this commission that first proposed what would later become the three language formula for school education. In order to enable every region to take its to promote inter-provincial understanding and solidarity, educated India has to make up its mind to be bilingual, and pupils at the higher secondary and university stage will have to know three languages. The Radhakrishnan Commission said this means that beyond one regional language, every person should be acquainted with the federal language and have the ability to read books in English. This proposition of 1964 to 66 Kothari Commission and was incorporated into the National Policy on Education 1968 passed by the Indira Gandhi formula and Indian language, preferably one of the southern language apart from Hindi and English in the Hindi speaking states and Hindi along with the regional language and English and English in the non-Hindi speaking states. The National Policy on Education of 1998 The National Policy on Education of 1986, passed by the Rajiv Gandhi's government, and the latest NEP of 2020 to retain this formula, although the latter provides for greater flexibility in its implementation. Unlike previous education policies, the 2020 NEP makes no mention of Hindi. The three languages learned by children will be the choices of states, regions, and of course the students themselves. So as so long so long as at least two of the three languages are native to India, the policy states. This means that in theory, a state can teach any two Indian languages with neither of them being Hindi and English. Center shifting stand. Over several years, the center has maintained that education is in the concurrent list of the Constitution and that the implementation of the three language formula is the responsibility of the states. In 2004, then Union Human Resource Development Ministry Arjun Singh of the Congress said in Parliament the role of the central government in the matter of the implementation of the three language formula is mandatory. Implementation of this formula is the sole responsibility of the state governments. Actually, Minister Smriti Irani of the BJP reiterated this position in 2014, saying that it was up to the states to finalize their own curricula and syllabi. However, now the Ministry of Education has linked the release of Smagar Shiksha funds to the implementation of the NEP, effectively forcing the hands of the states when it comes to their respective education policies. Explanation, foreign policy and strategy. The India-EU partnership. The visit of a delegation of the EU's College of Commissioners led by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen marks a significant new phase in the bilateral relationship between India and Europe. News from New Delhi. At a time when ties between Europe and the United States are facing great pressure, a large delegation of European Commission College of Commissioners is in New Delhi for a two-day visit. 22 of the 27 commissioners are part of the delegation led by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. This is the first trip out of Europe by the college that took office in December and the first ever visit to India by the commissioners together. Indian officials said the visit of the College of Commissioners marks a significant new phase in bilateral relations as India and the EU enter the decade of their strategic partnership. Meetings of the India-EU Trade and Technology Council bilaterals between Indian ministries and EU commissioners, and the meeting at the leaders level will diversify engagement and promote trade and investments in a range of areas, the officials said. These include artificial intelligence and semiconductors as well as green hydrogen, sustainable urbanization, water management, resilient supply chains, defense and space. A deepening relationship. India established diplomatic relations with the European Economic Community, the first pillar of the future European Union back in 1962, The joint political statement signed in 1993 and the cooperation agreement of 1994 paved the way for the strengthening of ties between India and Europe. The multi-tier institutional architecture of cooperation has been presided over by the India-US summits, India-EU summits, 15 of which have been held so far. The first summit was held in Lisbon in June 2000 and the bilateral relationship was upgraded to strategic partnership at the fifth summit in The Hague in 2004. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and EC President Ursula von der Leyen have met at least 7 times in the past. The President paid an official visit to India in April 2022, during which she participated in the Resina Dialogue as chief guest and delivered the inaugural address. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President von der Leyen met briefly on the sidelines of the G20 Rio Summit in November 2024. In January this year, the PM spoke by telephone with the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa. Meetings and initiatives, the India-EU Strategic Partnership. A roadmap to 2025 was adopted at the last India-EU Summit in July 2020. At the leaders' meeting in May 2021, the two sides announced the resumption of negotiations for a comprehensive free trade and investment agreement and an agreement on geographical indications. They also launched an ambitious connectivity partnership. During their meeting in 2022, Modi and von der Leyen announced the establishment of an India-EU TTC as a strategic coordination mechanism to tackle challenges at the nexus and trade, trusted technology and security. The TIC, a new frontier similar to the initiative for critical and emerging technologies with the US or the Technology Security Initiative with the United Kingdom, represents three significant pillars of India-European EU cooperation. India-EU cooperation, digital and strategic technologies, clean and green technologies, and trade, investments and resilient supply chains. The first ministerial meeting of the TIC was held in May 2023. The second meeting will be held in New Delhi on Friday. In the various meetings between the two sides, the issue of global cooperation, including the ongoing war in Ukraine, in which the US under President Donald Trump has done a remarkable switch, leaving the Europeans in the lurch in certain to be discussed. Trade and investments. India and the EU have been negotiating a free trade agreement for the last decade and a half. The economic argument for an agreement is strong. The EU is India's largest trading partner in goods, and bilateral trade has increased 90% over the past decade. Bilateral trade in goods was $135 billion in final year 2023 to 24, with Indian exports to the EU accounting for $76 billion and imports for $59 billion. Bilateral trade in services in 2023 stood at $53 billion, comprising Indian exports of $30 billion and imports of $23 billion. Cumulative foreign direct investment (FDI) flows from the EU during the period April 100 to September 2024 was $117.4 billion, which represented 16.6% of the total FDI equity inflow. India FDI outflows to the EU are valued at approximately $40.04 billion for the period April 2000 to March 2024. Technology cooperation. The technology partnership between India and the EU has assumed greater significance and urgency in view of China's advancements in this field. Bilateral science and technology cooperation is carried out within the framework of the Science and Technology Cooperation Agreement of 2027. The India-EU intent of cooperation in high-performance computing was signed in November 2022, and in November 2023, the two sides signed a memorandum of understanding on semiconductor R&D cooperation. The following month, the EU participated in the Global Partnership on AI Summit in New Delhi. Green Energy Solutions. Under the India-EU Green Hydrogen Cooperation Initiative, India was the exclusive partner country at the European Hydrogen Week in Brussels in November 2024. The EU was a major partner in the International Conference on Green Hydrogen in Delhi that September. The European Investment Bank has committed to supporting Indian hydrogen projects with funding of €1 billion. Indian and European companies are collaborating in the renewable and hydrogen sectors with the aim of developing a green hydrogen ecosystem in India by 2030. People-to-people ties. Strong and growing people ties is one of the foundations of the India-EU relationship. The growing Indian diaspora in the EU contains large numbers of students, researchers, and skilled professionals. Indian professionals received the largest share, more than 20% of EU blue cards issued in 2023 to 24. Over the last 20 years, more than 6,000 Erasmus scholarships have been awarded to Indian students, making them among the top recipients of the scholarships. More than 2,700 Indian researchers have been funded by Marie Sklodowska-Curie Actions, part of the EU's Research and Innovation Program Horizon Europe since 2014, the most in the world. Defense and space. India and the EU are strengthening their defense cooperation, especially in maritime security and India-Pacific region under ESIWA Plus security program. This is crucial in the context of China's growing maritime prowess and aggressive policies. The first joint naval exercises were held in October 2023 in the Gulf of Guinea. The two sides have stepped up cooperation on global security, natural disasters, privacy, and counterterrorism. Indian Space Research Organizations ISRO's PSLV successfully launched the EU's PROBA-3 mission in December 2020. ISRO and the European Space Agency have cooperated on the Chandrayaan-3 and Aditya L1 mission and signed an MOU for cooperation on Gaganyaan, India's human spaceflight mission. In Supreme Court, staying Lokpal order on High Court judge question of complaints procedure. News from New Delhi, the Supreme Court last week stated a Lokpal order that took cognizance of a corruption of complaint against an unnamed High Court judge in its January 27 order. The Lokpal bench led by former Supreme Court Judge A.M. Khanwilkar held that it had the power to hear corruption complaints against former judges under the Lokpal and Lok Ayuktas Act 2013. However, the Supreme Court took suo motu cognizance of the case in the bench of Justices B.R. Gavai, Suryakant and A.S. Oka called it something very disturbing while saying the order the next hearing has been posted for March 18. Supreme Court's rationale. While the Supreme Court has previously acknowledged criticisms of judges, its response has always been balanced with its efforts to protect the independence of judges and the judiciary. It has sought to establish safeguards against possible cases of executive overreach. The Lokpal is an independent statutory body that is under the aegis of executive. Admitting its January 27 order could have opened a new avenue for complaints against judges without abiding by the process earlier laid down for such cases. Complaint against judges, Section 27 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 IPC effectively states that a judge cannot be charged with an offence if the allegation is related to the exercise of her official duties. The provisions have been reproduced as Section 15 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. The Supreme Court added an extra layer of protection in K. Veeraswamy versus Union of India 1991. Justice Veeraswamy, former Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, was being investigated by the CBI in a disproportionate asset case and had moved to quit the case. The Supreme Court held that he was public servant and could be investigated for offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1947. However, the court also held that the President must sanction any criminal case against a judge after consulting the Chief Justice of India to protect the judge from frivolous prosecution and unnecessary harassment. The President is bound by the advice given by the CCI, notably the procedure for filing a case against a sitting judge is different from the procedure for impeaching a judge, where approval is required from Parliament. Case before Lokpal. 2 complaints were filed against an High Court judge alleging that he had influenced an additional district judge and another High Court judge who were hearing suits filed by the complaints against a private company. According to the complaint, the company was a client of the judge when he was still an advocate. The Lokpal order only deals with whether it had the power to hear a case against an High Court judge and not the merits of the complaint. The Lokpal Act states that it shall apply to public servants in and outside India. The term public servant is defined under Section 14 of the Act, and while it does not explicitly include judge, subsection F states that it includes any person who is or has been a chairperson or members or officer or employee in any autonomous body established by an act of parliament or wholly or partly financed by the central government or controlled by it. In a separate case in January, the Lokpal applied this definition and ruled that it cannot hear cases against a Supreme Court judge. It held that the Supreme Court was established under Article 124 of the Constitution of India and not an Act of Parliament. However, in the present case, the Lokpal found that High Court judges do not share the same status. Several High Courts were established and restructured under the High Court Act 1861 and the Government of India Act 1935. The Lokpal noted that these would be considered an Act of Parliament. As the General Clause Act 1897 specially states that an Act of Parliament will include an act passed before the commencement of the Constitution. The Lokpal stated that it will be to have to argue that a judge of a high court will not come within the ambit of expression any person, but given the K. Veeraswamy ruling and out of an abundance of caution, it noted that engaging in future proceedings being before the Lokpal inevitably involve a probe into allegations against a judge of the High Court. Thus, before conducting an inquiry, the Lokpal ruled out it would be appropriate to forward the complaint to the CJI for guidance on how to proceed. Cloudburst, landslides, avalanche, heavy rain and snow for third day disrupt life in HP. From Shimla, Ludhiana police raised property of a man who claimed will continue to sell drugs. From Ludhiana, will be an appeal for needed the big leap. The era of incremental progress in AI is over. With nations competing to dominate the ecosystem, India needs to do more than be a participant. The past 6 weeks have shattered conventional wisdom about AI dominance. A new era of innovation, disruption, and geopolitical maneuvering have arrived. Those who fail to adapt risk being left behind. January brought a stark wake-up call with the emergence of DeepSeek. DeepSeek, the Chinese startup, unveiled its AI model, DeepSeek R1, which matched the capabilities of leading models like OpenAI's GPT-4, while also being open source and free. This breakthrough wasn't just a technological feat, it was a warming shot. The balance of AI power is shifting, proving that true innovation isn't just about resources but about the speed, efficiency, and strategic intent behind them. Meanwhile, the AI Action Summit in Paris, where leaders from nearly 100 nations convened to shape AI's future, sent a resounding message: growth must take precedence, growth must take precedence over excessive regulation. A defining moment came when France unveiled to $109 billion bonds, AI investment plan, underscoring the urgency of substantial investments to maintain global competitiveness. In a landmark shift, President Emmanuel Macron and the Finnish Minister of Transport and Communications, Timo Haraka, committed to scaling back regulations in Europe to keep pace with global AI developments. India's advocacy for a human-centered AI approval, passionately championed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also gained traction. The summit conducted with a commitment to inclusive and sustainable AI. The senior who changed my life. He was my pillar of support. With his sharp intellect, great oratory, Iqbal M. Chagla towered above his colleagues, seniors at the bar. Mela of Unity and Diversity, Mahakumbh showcased the spiritual oneness of India. The 6-week-long Mahakumbh has come to an end. Analysts, though, are still commenting about the crowds, arrangements, water quality, and the devotion of millions who thronged Prayagraj. Prime Minister Narendra Modi too panned his thoughts, calling this Manmohan congregation the Ekta Ka Mahakumbh. The Mahakumbh of Unity. It is hard to predict the exact number of people who visited the Mela and took a holy dip in the sacred waters at the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. But it is undeniable that the numbers of this time were mind-boggling. The Mahakumbh Prayagraj was the first Kumbh to take place in the era of the omnipresent social media. Popular mediums of communication such as YouTube, Instagram, and X provided perfect platform for more people to know about the grandeur and sacredness of the event, and many proceeded to take part in it. There is no denying the FOMO factor, fear of missing out. Photographs and videos of people taking a dip instantly reached remote corners of the country and encouraged many to undertake the pilgrimage. The FOMO factor should not to be dismissed. Instead, it should be seen as a demonstration of the deep-seated spiritual calling of the Hindus. The land-back champion Boris Spassky blended psychology and unpredictability on the chessboard. He cut off clutter. A new American empire. Trump administration is rewriting rules of engagement and Europe has little role in it. It is only now dawning on European politicians that the most serious threat the West faces as a geopolitical actor is neither Russia's army nor Chinese economy. Even Muslims and migrants, long the favorite internal enemies of Europe's population, pale in insignificance before the extreme for the external side posed by US policy on Russia and Ukraine, Canada and Mexico, and on Europe's military and economic status. While it is tempting to attribute this challenge solely to the Donald Trump administration, it has been in the making for much longer under Democrat-led administrations than under Republican ones. Dressed for success, India's textile apparel industry is primed to weave a narrative of growth. We'll engage with all and discuss strategies to make Kong stronger in Himachal, Patil says. Military logistics exercise conducted at Chandi Mandir military station. NRI's land worth 6 crore rupees sold for 30 lakh rupees by Imposter Vigilance Bureau. Books 9 High Court dismisses plea for re-evaluation in Haryana judicial exam. Supreme Court refuses to hear plea against temporary release of Ram Rahim. From New Delhi, the Supreme Court Friday refused to hear a plea of the Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee SGPC against the temporary release of Dera Sacha Sodha Chief Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh. A bench of Justice B.R. Gavahi and Prashant Kumar Mishra watched hearing plea filed by the SGPC challenging a Punjab and Haryana High Court order. The bench noted Ram Rahim's counsel objection to the maintainability of the PIL High Court, which it disposed of on the grounds that it was filed against a single person who was the Dera chief. In that view of the matter, we are not inclined to consider the present petition, the bench said. Ram Rahim is serving a 20-year jail term for raping two of his disciples. The SGPC moved the apex court against August 2024 order of the High Court. The High Court had disposed of the SGPC's PIL observing in case an application was filed by Ram Rahim for temporary release. The same should be considered by the Competition Authority strictly in accordance with the provisions of the Act of 2024 without arbitrariness of the favoritism or discrimination. It was alleged that the state of Haryana, while granting temporary release to Ram Rahim, was misusing its powers under Section 11 of the Haryana Good Conduct Prisoners Temporary Release Act 2022. From PTI. Language war in states is the government forces not happy with Bharat Rising. From Chennai. How opponents fell short on Kumbh narrative, Mamata Lalu remarks have sent Gandhi. Need to be aware of difficulties faced by women. Supreme Court sets aside 2 MP judicial officers' dismissal from New Delhi. Thank you. Thanks all of you, brothers and sisters. All my dear friends, listeners, learners, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, the most honorable President President Modi ji, respected listeners and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors. Thanks all of you. Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad. Thanks for listening.